This fall, Fowler, California is celebrating 150 years of community, tradition, and progress. My name is Eric Hatton, and I'll be your host through this special Sesquicentennial series of episodes. Over the next several weeks, I'll be sharing stories from various Fowler families that provide insight into what life has been like over the past 150 years. Members of the Fowler Sesquicentennial Committee have been working around the clock over the last few weeks to create an incredibly unique and special space. Located in the FIA Hall and opening tomorrow evening, the Fowler Sesquicentennial Museum allows guests to immerse themselves in 150 years of community history. One of the members of the committee, Stephanie Mejia, was kind enough to take a moment away from museum setup to discuss some of her experiences bringing our community's history to life. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me. This space is incredible. There's already so much here to see. You've got beautiful wall panels, yearbooks, pieces of period clothing. What has it been like to delve into 150 years worth of our community's history?
It's been an incredible journey for me. My husband and so many people who live in Fowler, they don't just appreciate Fowler, they genuinely love Fowler. And this journey of studying history has helped me understand where that love and dedication really truly comes from. There's so many stories which you will see as you experience all that this exhibit has to offer, but they're incredible stories that that really help to develop the culture and the dynamic of the community that makes up Fowler and makes it so incredibly unique.
You mentioned the word culture. I'm curious, how would you define the culture that's been created here in Fowler?
The culture is caring. People genuinely do care for one another. There are churches, for such a small community, there are a large number of churches. And so there's a lot of faith in the community. And so I think that definitely impacts, love thy neighbor is definitely a characteristic that you see where people literally do look out for one another. People who live in Fowler stay in Fowler for a long time, and so they build relationships, and the people who live around them in their sphere, whether it be at work or just in their neighborhoods, they generally care and look out for one another. And that really is a lost art, especially in this day and age. You know what I mean? People are inconvenienced to care for somebody else, but in Fowler, people do truly care for one another, and generation after generation in this community, they've had the same teacher at the same school, and so they are tight-knit. My husband always talks about how tight-knit Fowler is, and I feel like I'm being adopted into that, and I'm just being welcomed with open arms as I've begun to discover this and work with people on the committee who are impacting my life as well.
So as you've worked through this project, I'm sure there have been a few stories that you've come across that have really resonated with you. What are those?
Yeah, I absolutely love, I love when people come together in the midst of unexpected times or tragedy. And definitely in 1942, when the Japanese internment took place, that was devastating, obviously, for a number of people, but especially for the Japanese American community. And so I can't imagine what it would be like to, be swept away in that environment with so much uncertainty and be gone for, 3 years or more for some, but to come home and find out that people you hadn't communicated with all that time were protecting your land and your home and keeping your crop, plentiful, so that when you came home, you had resources and you had everything that you had when you left was still there and intact. That to me is an incredible story of sacrifice. It brings hope. There's just, I just absolutely love that story. And I love that it's a dynamic of the Fowler community. And again, it kind of just goes back to the foundation of faith and the genuine care that comes from one resident to another. Another thing about Fowler's history that I find so incredible is again going, just referencing these stories that I'm finding is another story about what took place in the early 1900s when the Armenian genocide was taking place. Obviously, they were looking for a place to escape, and there were citizens in Fowler who were working extra hard to reduce the cost of railroad fare, like the cost of traveling on the railroad, so that they could come to Fowler and make a home here. And I can't imagine what that would be like for someone who is, in that state of just anguish, to know that people they don't even know are working to try and bring them closer into a community where they can, own businesses and start a life together. Yeah. And so just the fact that Fowler has so many different cultures and so many different backgrounds, to me, is incredible, right? It's like this beautiful rainbow of people. And so that's just another thing that, as I'm thinking about the things that have blessed me as I'm doing this research, that's another thing that I just find pretty spectacular about things that happened before we were here, but we get to reap the benefit of having so many incredible cultures who just live together in harmony. So I think that's beautiful.
Now, both you and your husband, Councilman Juan Mejia, are both members of the Sesquicentennial Committee. Obviously, you're working professionals. You have a ton of external responsibilities. Why did you feel it was important to invest the time to help put this project together, to bring it to life?
We made a commitment when we were going to take the position of office that this was going to be our full-time servanthood. We knew that, we don't plan on being in this role long-term. But you cannot, you can't put a price tag, I guess, so to say, on being there for people and being there for a community. And when we decided to run, COVID was at its height, and people were looking for hope. People were looking for answers. And we don't assume to have all of those things, but we can certainly try and give everything we have to that cause. So yeah, we are happy to give to this community in any way that we can. We have very specific talents and gifts, and this exhibit is us putting that into practice. I think it's just so important that as you move forward, you remember where you came from, and so preserving this is incredible. And even just over the last couple days, things have been shared on Facebook, memories from high school, pictures and whatnot. And there's something unique about that nostalgia feeling that people are sharing and experiencing. And for us, that's what it's all about: bringing joy to somebody, bringing hope to somebody. And there's an educational element to it as well that, most people don't know a lot of these facts and parts of Fowler's history. And I just hope that it makes them as proud to be in Fowler as it has done for me. I hope that, it helps educate. We're hoping that schools come and do tours through here. So, my husband and I are 100% dedicated to this community. And this is just one way for us to show that during this, sesquicentennial, which is incredible. I've never been in a community that experienced a sesquicentennial before, so we're grabbing on with both fists.
Now, you've had an opportunity to be steeped in our community's history, but I am curious, where do you see Fowler going over the next 150 years?
There's been a lot said about Fowler's growth and, the speed of it or the quality of what comes in. And I think that the leadership of the staff and the council are going to still maintain to preserve the tight-knit aspect of Fowler. We're not looking to be the next Fresno. There's something unique about Fowler the way it is now. There are additional things that we would love to have, conveniences that I think will eventually make their way here. Sure. But I do think that the number one focus of the leadership will always, hopefully be to preserve the small, unique, small town feel that Fowler has. Yeah. And again, I hope that experiencing the history here will help remind people just how important that is. That, sometimes, if you want Fresno, it's just down the road. but let's, preserve Fowler in all of the amazing qualities that it already has in it.
Okay, so the million-dollar question, when can people come to the FIA Hall to see all of the work you and your fellow Sesquicentennial members have put into this exhibit?
Awesome, yeah. Okay, so the museum opens this Monday, which will be October 3rd, based off of when anybody is listening to this, 2022. And it'll be open from 5 to 8, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday is the big Fowler Fall Festival, which has been a tradition in Fowler since 1933. I learned that during my research. So right directly following the Fowler Fall Festival, the museum will open again, and it will be open till 8 o'clock that night. And then after that, it will disappear forever.
So you have to come and see it while you can. It's like the kids when they talk about a pop-up shop. It's very exclusive.
It's a pop-up museum, yeah.
Well, thank you for everything you've done in preparing this museum for the public. It is an amazing space. It's amazing to see what you've already put together. I can't wait to see the finished project. And I'm telling you, anyone who's listening to this episode, do yourself a favor, come down and see this space. It is absolutely remarkable what the committee has put together, and you owe it to yourself to go down and see the space. You will not regret it. A special thanks to the Fowler Sesquicentennial Committee members and countless volunteers who've helped create the Fowler Sesquicentennial Museum. You can visit the museum at the Fowler Improvement Association Hall starting Monday, October 3rd at 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and running through Saturday, October 8th. Stay tuned to this feed over the next several weeks as I'll be posting new episodes as we discuss stories with various Fowler families that provide insight into what life was like over the past 150 years.